It's really more to give you an update and just to chat through a few things, such as obviously the lease, just what I've been focusing on in the salon, and then to look at the scorecard.
What about your award? Your
Yes, our nomination. That's right. I was going to show you that one as well.
Well, I'm interested in that. That's well done. Somehow it's recognition, right?
Definitely. It was a lovely it was because I've been waiting probably a month to find out who the finalists are. So we found out Monday afternoon. So Marley and I were jumping around the salon celebrating.
Good for you.
Yeah. So Kelly, how do you feel, and what would you like to get out of today?
Well, I'm feeling not as cold as last time, and it almost seems like 2 weeks is too long, because it just shows you how fast everything's moving. When 2 weeks ago we weren't talking about you being nominated and then accepted in the nomination, so it's kind of interesting, isn't it?
Definitely.
And then life goes on. We got a lease to worry about. We got other stuff. So, and then we got our scorecard. So, yeah, I want to get all of that into a focus again, so that we know, and we're constantly being reminded. For me, so many people talk about systems. And systems are already there. You're not, we say we create these systems and so on. Yes, we do. What's more important than the system is the process.
Yes.
Because as we start looking at it, we've created, like, we've got a branding system, we've got a shop system, but they're already there. Now what we have to do is we need to understand the process. And process has to, in a lot of ways, have goals, and it has to have focus, so that when we have those goals and those focuses, we can actually make a difference. Because whether we choose the level of our process or not, something's going to happen. And I mean, I think that's one of the things that you've learned, and I just got that, so I'll have a look in a minute. One of the things that you've learned is that if you start to look at, and we've been talking about it for quite some time, is your taxation and your superannuations. Whether you like it or not, they're already there.
Yes.
And whether you process through it or not, they still process.
Correct.
And so it's a matter of how do we focus on that, and how do we make sure we don't get caught by that. And in the same way, whether you're nominated for an award or not nominated, they're still there. So the question is, what would we do to make you most attractive? And having won that award, what would it do for you? How would you process it? So I think it's really very important that we understand that, because it takes you into a different league, really. It takes your ability to do things and makes them very different. So I think that all of those are important. So from my perspective, it's good to be on the call, and it's good to be getting a level of understanding and then a level of focus of what we'll do for the future. So where do you want to start, Megan?
What have I got here? I'll just chat to you about the lease first, Kelly.
Sure.
They haven't come. I've sent a few emails just following up, but they haven't come back to me with anything. The lady's just saying that it's with the owners, and she'll come back to me when they get back to her. What do you feel like? Do I keep just emailing? What would you do in that situation?
Well, what's the rent you're paying now?
I'm paying the same rent.
So how much is the rent you're paying?
It works out roughly 3.3, I believe. Let me just pull it up. Can't even remember now. I had the last 2 weeks, even though it's gone quick, I had my brother over from the States. He came over for my dad's 70th birthday.
Oh, good. Was that
Yeah,
fun for you?
yeah, it was lovely. It was nice. I haven't seen him in 8 years.
So what's he doing in the US?
He lives in Missouri with his American wife, and he's a paramedic.
Oh, geez, he'd be right in the thick of it in Missouri. That's where all the harsh abortion laws have just passed.
Oh, I didn't even think about that. He's always talking about the tornadoes.
Yeah, the tornadoes, but Missouri has just passed the worst abortion laws.
I know. Yeah, I didn't even think of that.
As a paramedic, boy, that must be something that could be upsetting for him.
Oh, definitely. He's a paramedic, but he also works with the fire department, because my dad used to be a fireman as well. He was in the Air Force, so my brother's kind of followed in a similar path.
Okay.
He loves it. Okay, so the rent that I'm paying at the moment with GST is 3,123.
3,123.
And then I'm paying outgoings of 478 per month.
Okay. And so really your agreement says that you're going to maintain that, right? The existing agreement that you have basically says, this is my agreement.
Yes.
So the thing that you have to bear in mind, that's the agreement that's being adhered to right now.
Mm-hmm.
So the only time that you've got to be really concerned is if they change that to suit themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So if they change it and say, well, hang on a second, that's not our agreement, then it becomes a very different argument. So the answer to your question is, should we be pushing it? Well, right now, you have an agreement that they're abiding by, which you're trying to amend.
Mm-hmm.
And they're trying to amend it so that you pay more, and you're trying to amend it so you pay less. But right now, you're in a place where you're wanting to pay less. So it's more to your benefit if you push it than if you leave it. But again, to me, the single most important thing in my mind is your $10,000.
I know, and I've asked about that as well, and she said, just pretty much said the same thing.
And so, to me, I can't understand how it is, and maybe in that world that there's a different way of doing things. I don't understand how it is that you're in a situation where they can hold your money and not be accountable for that money.
This was her reply for the last email. I'm yet to receive a signed copy of the offer. I cannot progress. So that was when I said to her about the $5,000 bank guarantee, that I would have it ready to, and then I would like my funds returned. And she said, I cannot progress until such time as this is received and your negotiations considered by the landlord. So she's saying that we can't progress until we have a signed copy of the offer from the landlord.
Say that again. Read it and then tell me what you were thinking.
So I sent her an email, Kelly, saying that I'd secured a $5,000 bank guarantee for the new lease.
Yeah.
And I'd like to move forward lodging this during our negotiations, and I'd like to have my current deposit returned to make things work moving forward. That was my email. And she replied with, I am yet to receive a signed copy of the offer from the owner. I cannot progress until such time as this is received and your negotiations considered by the landlord.
You see, we're actually separating out the issues. We're saying that there's an agreement that's being abided by now, and what we're saying is we want our money back. We want to even if the existing agreement that you have, which you're working to right now, what you're saying is they've made it clear that they'll take a bank guarantee. So I think that she's bundling the things together, and we're actually trying to deal with a separate issue.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we need to say, acknowledge that we're in the middle of negotiation. Also want to remind you that there's $10,000 floating around that's not accounted for or unaccountable. And we would like to resolve that issue by offering you $5,000 of security whilst we're negotiating the progressive contract. Do you see the point I'm making?
That I'm saying that I would prefer to have a bank guarantee.
Yes, on the existing agreement. So what you're saying is that you find, and I think we need to word it with a little bit of force behind it, saying we're finding this extraordinary that you hold $10,000 of our money and you're not acknowledging that there's this 10,000. We don't really have an acknowledgement of it. And as part of our negotiating position for the new terms, we would like to believe that our deposit would be $5,000. And at that, as such, we've already worked out a bank guarantee of $5,000, and we'd like to place that, and we'd like to have our $10,000 back. Mm-hmm. And they might come back, and their counteroffer to that might be, no, we want a $10,000 guarantee, and you can have your $10,000 back. That's more sensible to me than saying we've got a negotiation process. We're separating out the issues. Mm-hmm. You understand my point? We're saying there's two separate issues going on here. The first issue is we have no awareness of where our $10,000 cash is, and we have they haven't really acknowledged it, have they?
They sent me a email from a real estate that I have no idea who is to say that they're holding my funds. I'll just see. Yeah, that was she said, is this sufficient? And that's when I went
back. We should go back and say that we're concerned about this. No, it's not sufficient. So I think we need to say, mm-hmm. You asked before if this was sufficient, and we're saying, no, it's not. What we actually want to do, and I think we have to be lean into it a little bit. Does that make sense to you?
Yes.
And you've got to separate out the issues. I'm very concerned that they think it's okay to, and I mean, it's not as if you're talking about $5.
No.
It's a very substantial amount of money that seems to just be out there. And I would rather that was cleaned up. And when she talks about progressive movement towards the new agreement, we're actually trying to tidy up the change of ownership, which happened 2 years ago.
Well, only last year, Kelly.
Okay, so we're trying to say, acknowledge that we're I think I'd put it like that. I acknowledge that we're in the middle of a negotiation, but we have a level of concern that when the new owners took over, there seems to be a lack of accountability about our $10,000. And what we'd like to do is like to know that money is secure. See, I've seen or heard nothing that secures that money.
No, I agree.
So,
okay.
And then quite separate from the new agreement, which is something that you say, and to that matter, we're very concerned that this is not moving along. Are there any problems? And I mean, I'd just ask it straight out. Are there any problems? Mm-hmm. How's the new massage parlor going?
They've picked up. So at first it was very quiet, but now it seems to have picked up a little bit. They're still not, they're not super busy, but they do have people going in. But really it's more one person at a time that you can see.
Jeez. So there will be some fun and games with that. What about the woman next door to you?
She's probably the same when we spoke. She has a lease now, though. They sent her through a lease. So they, as I said to you last time, they signed her for 510 plus GST per square metre.
Well, we know that they have that level of tolerance then.
Mm. And then the gentleman next door, I spoke to him. He's a mortgage broker. I don't know why. He has this massive shop the same size as mine, and he's a mortgage broker. He was telling me that he's currently paying, I believe I've written it down, 540 plus GST. But he said that he started on 510 and it's increased over the last few years. So it goes back to the point that they're all starting around that 510 mark.
Okay, which means, it's interesting that they're talking about the market rate, but we know the market rate. And what are they asking you for? 585 or something?
595 plus GST.
So what we know is somewhere between 510 and 540 is where it's going to be.
Mm-hmm. And
then it's a matter of the bond, and then it's a matter of the terms of CPI increases,
mm-hmm.
or their annual reviews. And I think an annual review is just repugnant.
Because the mortgage guy signed on 4% as well.
What did he say about that?
I don't think that they're very, I don't think that they understand. And I had a chat to him and I said, next time don't sign on 4%. So we've had a bit of a chat, and I think they just kind of get the contract and sign it pretty much. I don't think they negotiate.
Well, and the other side of it is mortgage brokers are by nature optimistic about increase in real estate. Yeah. Well, 4%, that seems to make sense to me.
Yeah, exactly.
Jeez. Oh, well, that's it. So I think as long as we're moving towards something and we can demonstrate that we're not holding it up.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, what's the worst case scenario?
Oh, they boot me out eventually, but I think.
Well, the worst case scenario is exactly they evict you.
Yeah.
But what's the time frame on eviction?
I have no idea. I'd say it'd be at least a month.
I think that they would find it extremely hard to put you out. This country is so socialist that, that you wouldn't want to put a mom with a baby out on the street, would you?
No. Do you know, I know that it's totally different, but I know that when you're trying to kick tenants out of your rental house, that takes months. So it's, I wonder if it's very similar.
Well, same concepts, and we're the same society, but I think you're right to put this on, and I just find it unbelievable that there's this lack of accountability for your cash. I get all the other stuff that they're doing.
I just don't think they care, to be honest. I think they just.
Well, no, that's the exact point. They don't care. So the less we put towards it, the less they think we care. That's exactly my point.
Yes.
And one will accelerate the other. I think that I think that it's going to be hard for you to do the swap over until the new agreement. I really believe that. But I think it forces the new agreement by forcing what rightfully belongs to you.
Yes, I agree.
So by understanding that, we start to understand that putting the pressure in an area that makes complete sense, from what belongs to you to the negotiation. This woman seems to have this attitude. Well, I'm only brokering. I can't make the decision. which is exactly what her position is. I'm only the broker.
Mm-hmm.
So the question is, do we need to speak to the owner? And there's no way that they're going to allow that. So you can say, well, I'm caught between right now, right? So what is it that we need to do to get to that moment of you being secure in your mind about exactly what your next 5 years are about?
Mm-hmm.
And I'll tell you, if you pull off the award, you don't think that that's going to put a feather in their cap.
Mm.
You know, because all of a sudden they have a salon that's considered to be one of the better ones, or a business operation that's considered to be one of the better ones in your industry, in Brisbane or Queensland. So I think it's quite interesting that you do that. Now you're going to be able to stick in your shop window nominated for, right?
Yes, I'm just getting some posters done up at the moment. And then they'll go around the whole centre and into the rooms. I did have a question though when you were talking about it before. You said you made a comment about what would winning the award do for you and how do you process it. Obviously, that's the same as being nominated. When you say how do you process it, do you mean as in how do we advertise that we've been nominated, as in social media and posters and things like that? Is that what you're talking about when you say how do you process?
No, I want to know, how do you win it?
Oh, okay.
Most of those awards you are voted on by the public, aren't they?
Well, I'm just trying to find out, because I think this one might be voted on by judges, but I'm just trying to find out at the moment.
That's the process.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So do we need to get people to vote for it? Do we need to have a campaign of getting people to vote for it?
Mm-hmm.
A friend of mine won a golden plate with his restaurant. And it turned out they needed to get votes. And so you think, was their food really the best? Personally, I didn't think it was, but but they won the award. And how did they win the award? Is because everybody they knew voted for them. I mean, everybody. And most awards have that functionality to them. And if that is the case, then what processes do we need to put into place to make sure you win?
Okay.
So and that was my point. If that makes sense to you.
Just leave that one with me, Kelly, and I'm following it up.
Well, and the one thing I know about you, Meghan, is you're a connector, right?
Oh yeah, don't worry, I can get people to vote.
that I'm not worried about.
Even if I have to dress Byron up as a little dinosaur and say vote for my salon.
Yeah, however you do it. But that's my point. This is where we need to understand the process.
Okay, I've got that as a task.
Okay, so under the lease, I think we got to lean into it more, is to borrow an American expression. We've got to put a little bit more heat on it.
I've got that.
Because in real terms, I'm surprised. I guess they might be stalling to the new financial year. They might want the lease to be signed for the financial year.
I just don't think that they don't seem to make it a priority to get back to their tenants. For instance, before that massage shop went in, the florist wanted to rent some of that space. So she actually was going to take the whole shop and extend her shop. Yeah. And they took months getting back to her on the simplest of questions. So I just don't think that there's a priority for them with their tenants. Because even when something goes wrong, they barely get back to us, Kelly. Like, it's not a priority.
Well, maybe that shopping strip's not a priority for the broker or for the owner. I mean, that's a statement in and of itself. So it's important to you. It's probably more important to you than it is to them, is really what you're saying.
Definitely.
So if it's more important to you, who needs to exert the energy to get it done?
Okay.
If you want to get it done. And really, our incentive is we want the $50 a week to grow the business. because fundamentally that's what you're talking about, $50 to $60 a week that you don't have to find, that you can apply somewhere else. So I think that it's to your advantage, and that's probably one of the reasons why they're not in a big hurry, because at some level they've got to work out whether or not, and it might have even been to see whether the government changed or the government didn't change. I mean, that seems to be nonsense to me, but it will be an excuse they're going to use. It's like, we wanted to see which way the economy was going to go. I don't see how that's going to make that much difference, other than there's this bump right now, and I would have been all over you, as soon as that happened, if that were the case, and said, okay, let's get this deal done. This is how we want to do the deal. But effectively, you're trying to say to them, you want to give them $50 a week less, right? That's what you're saying.
Yes.
And they're saying, we don't want to handle this because, one, they don't want a vacancy, right? And two, they don't want to give you $50. And in real terms, even if we looked at this and said, okay, what would they have to do to entice somebody to be in your shop? They might have to give away 3 months or 4 months rent. And so in effect, it would be cheaper to give you $50. Yeah, and so I think that's what the subtlety of it is really understanding what it means, and we understand what it means. I mean, for us, $300 a month, and it'll be a little bit more than $300 is a net position, means that's 3, 4, or 5 clients that we don't have to have. And it just allows you to do other things, and I think that's what the real stall is.
Okay.
And they know if they've already got shops that are lower in the same square meterage, it would be interesting to see what the people are paying in the massage shop.
Well, there's been talk, because they're it's family members, so I wouldn't be. Yeah. Who knows?
Well,
I doubt. I wouldn't be surprised if they're not paying anything, to be honest. I think it's the owner's cousin.
Yeah, but what nationality are they?
Singaporean.
They're not going to be giving it away. I can tell you that right now. That's not the nature of Singaporean business people. The nature of Singaporean business people are to be in exchange. There will be some level of exchange. Will it be the full rent? I doubt it. Will it be a place where they can make it beneficial to both parties? I'm certain that will happen. It wouldn't surprise me if they're paying less than $510. But the point is, why should you pay more so that they can benefit their cousin? Because in effect, that's what happens, isn't it?
Yes.
So I don't know. Meghan, settle up to him and just say, see, you've been here for a while. I've been across the way for a while. How's things moving for you? I mean, you know what to do. I don't need to tell you.
Yeah.
How to do that. You clearly got to that moment with other people. So, I mean, you're clearly the center information carrier, right?
Oh, no, I'm not, Kelly. The florist is.
But
I'm very good friends with the florist, which helps.
Yeah, well, why don't you ask the florist?
Well, she's tried, but they we've spoken to them a little bit so far, but we're just kind of creating that relationship. So it's yeah, we'll get there.
Yeah. Well, anyway, let's leave it at that.
All right.
You know what to do?
Yes.
So tell me what you're going to do.
So firstly, I've got my email to send through that we just spoke about regarding the two, the bank guarantee, and then also moving forward with the lease. Then I've also got my second one is I'm finding out how to win this award, how we need to do it, if we need to vote, or how the actual voting works.
Yeah, and so if you bring that up on screen, So we're going to move to that, are we? Let's finish that discussion so we're not halfway through it.
Okay. Just trying to find the email.
Well, you just sent it to me, so you just go to that and you can bring that up.
Can you see that one?
I can. So what is ABIA? What does that mean?
So ABIA is the Australian Beauty Industry Awards.
Okay.
Let me open this up.
Who nominated you?
Well, we had to nominate ourselves. But what it was that it was quite an in-depth process. So we had to, it was more like a assignment as such. So I had to fill in a lot of paperwork, answer questions about the salon, about sustainability in the salon, about the staff, everything pretty much, then supply client reviews, photos, all that sort of thing. So it's quite detailed because we nominated Marley as well as Therapist of the Year, but she didn't make the final cut.
Okay. And so there's going to be tables in Sydney.
Yes, so we'll go down to Sydney. So the same weekend that this ABIA Awards on, the biggest beauty event in Australia is on in Sydney. So it's the Hair and Beauty Expo. So it's where all the new products come out. It's where all the suppliers go. It's where we'll be next year with the masks. So that's where a lot of people launch their new products.
So there's a good chance that our face people will be there.
I don't know. There's a possibility.
Oh, I'm sure they'll be there. Which would be very good if you can invite them to a table of a nominee. That would fit in very nicely to what we do for the future.
Mm.
So that links in really well. And the fact that you see how this award could link to the idea of more funding.
Mm-hmm.
That's why this could be a really good focal point. So let's recognize the winner of these stage 2 size levels for training.
So here it
So
says
you can be a state winner and not the national winner.
Yes.
How many from this state are involved?
There's 8.
From this state?
From Queensland, there's 8.
So really, and Australia-wide?
I'll have to look, but I'd say there'll be less than 20 people Australia-wide.
Okay. So, and do we know who our competitors are in this state?
Yes.
And are they businesses like you or not?
We've just started looking at them. Some are more medi-spas. There's some places in the Gold Coast that do more medi-spa treatments, so injectables and, more medical treatments. But then there's some that are very similar to us.
Do you think the medi-spa ones are more likely
to win?
Yeah.
To be honest, yes. But I'm there's always, the opportunity there for us to win. It depends on how they judge it, because as I said, I had to give details of certain things like clients, figures, but I kind of held off a little bit on some of the figures. But there was a lot of information that I had to supply. So depending on how they're judging it will depend on who the winner is, the overall winner.
But this is really where you've got a network, isn't it?
Yes.
This is really, when I look at this and I think about our 5-year strategy,
mm-hmm.
This is where you want to be known, right?
Yes. So my goal, Kelly, I think firstly, to be honest, was to actually be a finalist because this was the first year that we applied and we became a finalist. So I thought about applying in the last few years, but I looked at the level of salons that were applying and I kind of just was a bit hesitant.
Okay, Megan, let me, I doubt really very much whether as a first year you're going to win it.
I agree, Kelly.
Okay, but that doesn't mean to say that you don't make every post a winner.
Exactly.
And the reality of it is, if we're looking at this, and you and I are talking about a 5-year strategy, we're looking at where do we need to be in 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
And when we look at this thing, you see, let's look at the branding of these. Beauty clinic, Spa Hope Island, beauty, spa news of body and skincare, pretty in the city.
I would say the two that I think would probably win it would be those two there.
Okay. Okay, so if we look at this thing and we really are analytical about this, not emotional.
Mm-hmm.
And analytically speaking, what we want to do is we want to build contact. So if you're looking, how many times have you been to this to the not just the awards, but to their fair, to their beauty fair?
I've never been to the one in Sydney.
Have you ever been to any of them?
Yes, Brisbane events.
And are you known?
No, no.
Okay, so when you're really looking at this thing and you're saying to yourself, we're choosing where we want to be, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And I don't know that it's your strategy, but it's mine.
Mm-hmm.
Is that I want you to be able to sell to other salons,
mm-hmm.
or to other beauty businesses. And to do that, you have to get well known. And one thing that you are really good at is networking.
Mm-hmm.
And so to me, you've got to be planning to be at this. And you've got to be planning to make, and when you go down there, you've got to think very carefully. You've got to have cards, you've got to collect cards, and you've got to really look at this thing and say, in my view, who can I sell my products to beyond somebody sitting in my chair or laying on my bed?
Mm-hmm.
And that's why you're about to go to a place where really everybody that's anybody in the beauty business theoretically will be there.
Yes.
And you want to make a splash, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if that's the case, then how long does this spa go for?
The fair starts. Sorry?
How long does it go for?
The fair starts, I think, Friday to Sunday or Friday to Monday.
Okay, so it's a reasonably long time.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to be there for the whole time, or what do you want to do?
I'll go down Friday and then I'll come back Monday night, so I'll be there for the whole time.
Okay, and so what outcome do you want?
The outcome was for me to network, to look at what is currently in the industry. As I said, there's a lot of suppliers, that sort of thing there, to attend the gala event. That would be, and to make connections.
Okay, so could we say that what we want is see the trends, see who's supplying the trends, network with people, and exposure of Meghan.
Mm-hmm.
Right? That's really, if we're going to focus on something and we're really going to get our minds into it, those are the 4 areas that we want to look at. So network, trend, supply, exposure. And exposure is Australia wide.
Mm-hmm.
It's all Australia wide. We're wanting to understand our market, both at a in-shop level and a supply level. And we want to see which way that's trending.
Mm-hmm.
We really want to see who most people we want, and the other side of it is when we look at supply, we want to look at packaging.
Yes.
And we want to really get an understanding of that, because I actually do think this is kind of interesting. This is really phase 2, Meghan. Would you say this is phase 2, Meghan?
Yes, I agree, Kelly.
So you know, you've got yourself see, in a lot of ways, I don't like the way that they put up your branding, because it's not the Haven Skin and Body Shop. It's the Haven, and the tagline is Skin and Body Shop.
Mm.
You understand my point?
Yeah, I do. I think that when we apply, that's how, obviously when you fill out the forms, that's how you fill the information out with the Haven Skin and Body Shop.
Yeah, and again, the Haven says something quite different to Skin and Body.
Mm.
It's where you want to come to be pampered. This is what we're pampering, Skin and Body. You see, but they've done that for everybody.
Yeah.
Serenity, Skin Spa. I mean, that's just picking small things. But for me, I mean, yes, we want to win. But what's a real win for us?
The 4 items that we discussed before.
Yeah, the real win is is you getting well known.
Mm-hmm.
That's and setting up linkages, because you could spend an awful lot of money trying to find out all of these people, you know, over a long period of time, or you can bring it really narrow in a short period of time with a dense opportunity field. Does that make sense to you?
Yes.
And you have to see who the players and the shakers are. That'll almost tell you who is going to win.
And that's it, because I think we I focus so much on the people in like Brisbane, Queensland. You know, so we kind of know. I know who they are in the Brisbane area, and they do know of the salon and myself. But Australia wide, it's a little bit different.
You know what's interesting, Meghan? My eldest daughter was a rhythmic gymnast, and she was part of the elite squad. So she was part of the Australian squad.
Oh, wow.
And one of the things, I was the director of rhythmic gymnastics WA. And one of the things that I did was realize very early that for Jen to win medals, we had to push forward our club. So we needed to shake with all the people that were shaking.
Yes.
And I realized that we couldn't afford to do very much because we had no money. So what I did was I got all the parents of the children that were in the elite WA squad. I said, okay, we've got to really work out who's going to make the decisions about who wins the medals, because it's subjective. This is not an objective exercise. It's a subjective exercise. People's opinions.
Yes.
And so what we did was we looked at who all the top judges at the events Australia-wide. So what we did was we determined who was going to be on the judging panel. And what we did was say to those judges, we picked the judges and we said, we want 4 judges over the next year to come in and look at our girls and evaluate what they needed to do. And so at the championship, we took out every gold medal. I don't mean one, I mean everyone. Every gold medal that could be taken out, we took out. And what happened was, because it's so subjective, the judges would say, those are my girls. Do you understand? So they didn't know any of the other people in the contest. They actually were intimate with our girls, our squad. And our coach took out Coach of the Year. Our squad took out all the medals. Now, it's just very interesting to me that when you understand the subjectivity of it, that you have to look at how subjective it is. There won't be a lot of difference between what you do and what all the other contestants do.
I agree, Kelly.
What will be the difference is what you do and how you go about finding out. Like, I want to know who's making the decisions. How do they choose the winner? Is it voted on? Is it, and then let's make a conscious effort. Now, why would we make that conscious effort in your mind?
To make a conscious effort to, do you mean to contact people or to create
to find out what's going on? We want to make a conscious effort to make.
I think to understand, to be aware of how the judging occurs and who's judging, and I think also to build the foundation for next year, so I can create those relationships over the next 12 months to then hopefully next year take the actual awards out to make this, to make myself known in the salon. Yeah,
and from our ultimate strategy, what we're starting to look at is realizing that the funding, we're going to be looking for funding. Because we know that our growth is not going to be selling more people into the salon. We realize that our growth is going to be becoming more understanding the trends of the market, the global supply of the market. All of those things are what's going to allow the funding to be important to us. So when we look at this thing, we're saying to ourselves, okay, in a very small way, over the last year, you've built a brand that you can build around. Okay, and you've done that consciously. Now what we're saying, okay, we've got this brand, let's take it to the market. And we can say, are we going to be people that are looking at bringing more people into our salon? The problem that we have is your salon's located somewhere where it's going to be very hard to make it a hotspot.
I know.
But it's not going to be hard to make you a hotspot. Do you understand why?
Not 100%.
One's a fixed location. One's one can move around.
Okay, I understand.
You've got a fixed location in your shop, but you personally can move around.
Yes.
Right, and they can say, well, you're in a shitty little strip mall, and you say, yes, but from a business practice point of view, what I'm fundamentally looking at, and what my goal is to be an educator in our industry. Well, to be an educator in your industry, you've got to understand the trends in the industry. You've got to understand the products, the packaging, and you have to have exposure.
Yes.
And by doing that, what we're saying is, okay, this is an opportunity. The reason why you've got the opportunity to be in the ABIA Do you know why you've got that opportunity?
For exposure for the salon?
No, Megan, it's because you're a good manager. How many people are going to fill out those forms? Ask yourself, how many are going to really fill out those forms?
Not a lot, Kelly.
Not a lot. So in that moment, the thing that separates you out from most salons is not the salon, they're not the place of business. It's your willingness to be a good manager.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what we're wanting to say is we're going to extend out that exposure of management. Now, as you start to see what other people are doing and the trends that are going on, are those likely to be something that a good manager would want to know and then to choose whether she acts upon or not?
Yes.
Yes, that's the whole point. And that's the reason why when we look at this thing, it's no different to what you're doing with the young women in your employ, is you're always looking to make them better.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Are you always looking to do the same for yourself?
Yes.
Yes. And one of your natural skills is communication, both written and you're just one of those people that can sit down anywhere and do what needs to be done, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay. It would be great if they just had empirical measurements, objective measurements of why a salon should win.
I agree.
It's not, it's subjective.
Mm-hmm.
So you and I have been talking about having a 5-year focus once we get things put into play.
Mm-hmm.
Now look, all of a sudden, you've already been doing this in the background. But that's the very nature of what you're doing. And so what I really want you to do is to be able to fundamentally connect the dots in your mind. Now I support you by stirring you up in a thought process.
Mm-hmm.
And so I expand your thoughts, but fundamentally your desire to communicate and your desire to be a good manager far outweighs my influence. Are you starting to understand my point?
Yes.
I'm only supporting who you are, giving you ideas, is what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what I think that we have to do is, just like you're educating your technician in your shop or in what you're doing, you now have to educate yourself to exactly what needs to be done here.
Mm-hmm.
And your mind is going to say, okay, not to the point of not watching what the salon does. It's more to be making sure that it's trending the way you want it to. And you want it to be part of the beauty industry, really.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
You know, the fact that they talk about clinics and spas, I don't see how they can necessarily say that a clinic and a spa is the clinic and the spa is trying to be medical industry, not beauty industry.
Mm.
You know, and I can tell you in Taiwan, from my experience, they separate themselves out so they can charge more.
Yes, they do.
And that's why they go medical rather than beauty.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I'd be saying, I'm not, Noosa Body and Skincare. That to me is a much better proposition for what we're talking about than beauty clinic spa.
Mm-hmm.
That to me is like it's bordering on medicine, medi-spa. They'll probably get it because they've probably got more money involved in it. But in the strict beauty industry, there's other stuff. Eden Aesthetics, well-being, skin clinic. Anyway, I would say we're getting very, very close. You need to work out what it is that you want to do with this 5 years. But I propose that you start looking about network trend, supply, and exposure, and how we're going to focus on it. And then we can do our 5-year.
Mm-hmm.
And if you work on this, and then you and I can set up a day where, a Sunday afternoon or a Saturday afternoon where we can be at the spa, we can get things out, and we can just say, okay, this is what we want to do.
No, that sounds good, Kelly, because I've been looking at, still in the background working on the face masks, but looking at other trends that have come up as well that are still face masks, but they're a little bit different. And talking to clients, and I've had a few clients say things like they're wanting to take salon treatments home to do in between facials that aren't sheet masks and things like that, but they are masks. So I've been looking at a few of the trends and what's out there at the moment, and while still working with the theory of the mask, if that makes sense.
Makes complete sense, because that's exactly what you're trying to. You're not looking at what's happening right now. You're trying to create what you want to happen later. And that's really what business is, and that's what entrepreneurship's about. It's not about trying to necessarily tap into what's there. It's saying, this is what I want to be there for me and what we're doing. There's lots of opportunity.
Yes.
So I really think that this fits in very nicely and very timely with where you're at, and I don't think that it's remiss to spend time on, because it's going to help you with your 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
So I really do think it's it's a feather in your cap, but it also shows your strength and your real strength in the area.
Kelly, do you think that I should email Christine and ask her if she's attending the Beauty Expo, which is where these awards are?
I'd keep my powder dry until I was more clear about what I wanted out of it.
Okay.
But it certainly wouldn't go amiss if she's there, and you can say, okay, we need to. And you go back to her and say, look, I haven't forgotten you. Mm-hmm. What I'm really doing is I'm putting together funding so that we can do it properly. Okay, so put the onus back on the funding and just say, it's now in Australia, it's now becoming pretty obvious that funding is going to come. And whilst we have the time and all the rest of it, to do what needs to happen, we also realize that we need to get funding to make a venture like this work. That would be the thing that I'd go back to her and Alona. I'd go back and I'd say, just to keep you abreast of what we're doing. We've been seeking funding so we can accelerate out our program.
Mm-hmm.
And you can say, as part of our funding strategy, we've been looking to become part of the ABIA. And to that effect, we've nominated and have been accepted for an award. You might do it like that.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense to you?
Perfect sense.
And now we're knocking off two birds with one stone, because really we do want to look at funding, Megan. There's nowhere in the world that we should not be looking at, especially with this new government settling in. It's like, I'm going to put extreme pressure on in the next couple of weeks. I got a really good friend that's now working with a lot of that side of government. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to task him to find out for us as much as he can find out about getting funding. Funding moving towards, the outcome that we want. Mm-hmm. And, the funding that we may look for, Megan, may not be the same as what you think it is. The funding that we look for may look to solve all your problems, so you have a clear sail, if you understand what I'm saying.
I think so.
Yeah, I don't really like saying very much about things that are imposts that are put upon us that we don't really get involved with, but I think you can get to that position. Mm-hmm. See, to me, it would be pretty interesting getting money at 3, 4, 5, 6% to take care of everything that needs to be taken care of, including
Yes.
growth.
Okay.
You
I
understand
understand.
what I'm
Yes.
saying now? I just don't like to do things in recordings.
No, I understand that, Kelly. That's not a problem at all.
Okay. And it's very possible for us to do that. And it's very possible for us to show that where you're going is just the evolution of a business family moving forward.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that you guys have got a really good argument to move forward with. So now we need to show the intention of that moving forward with by the question you ask, and in my typical long-winded way, I've said that connects to this connects to this connects to this.
Okay.
So I do think that we do owe Christina an email.
Mm-hmm.
And I do think that Alona should be included in on it, because I do think that that's what we're about, relationship.
Yes, I agree.
And in the meanwhile, if it's okay with you, I'll task myself to see if I can get somebody to find out about the government funding.
Mm-hmm. That would be good. Thank you.
And I'll do it so that we're doing that concurrently. I'll set about saying, okay, I got a guy that's in corporate networking, and I will say to him, look, we need to find out how to get access to this money. Who do we talk to? Who
Okay.
can you find us to talk to? And then we'll go from there.
Sounds good, Kelly.
All right. So I think you can see that the ABI, from my perspective, is a launching pad for more than just an award, and it shouldn't be something that should be one and done. I think that you'll win the award if we have our minds saying, why do we want the award?
Mm-hmm.
Right? And it could well be that you win it in 5 years' time.
Yes.
And so to put all the energy into winning it this time, you'd win it this time because you're lucky.
Mm-hmm.
Right? We want to win it because all the ducks are in a row.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
Yes.
So the thing I'd say is congratulations.
Thank you.
But it's just one step closer to what we're doing.
Exactly.
Okay, scorecard. Is there any other thing that you want to discuss when we're discussing that? Because we've gone pretty wide.
No, I'm happy with that, Kelly.
Okay, the thing I want you to do, Megan, is start to think about when you and I would do probably a 4-hour, and Miley could be there, it could be at the clinic, and I think it should be something where it's after hours. It doesn't matter to me what the after hours are, but we really sit down and we start to scope out what it is that we want to talk over 5 years.
Mm-hmm. Sounds good. Marley's actually away now for 5 weeks. She's going on holiday. So she's away from the salon for...
She's not allowed holiday.
Well, I stupidly agreed last year because I thought that we'd have enough staff, and she hasn't had a holiday in nearly 3 years. So she is going to Europe. So
clearly you pay her too much.
Oh, I know. Tell me about it. But so what that means is that I'm back in the salon like a bit more for the next 5 weeks.
So when does she come back?
She will be back, I think it's the 27th of July.
Do you think you should task her to look at a few things?
We have spoken about that.
Well, get her to get her. You know what you do for your Instagram?
Get her to take certain, I've given her, she's taking our menu, some products, and she's getting photos of our products and our menu in Europe. Yeah,
so why doesn't she do Miley abroad?
Okay.
on your Instagram, why don't you have Miley abroad? Miley reporting in on the beauty scene. And where's she
Okay.
going?
She's going to London, bless you, Amsterdam, Greece,
Oh, geez.
and Santorini, I think.
Whoa, Santorini is Greece still. So
Is it? Oh, there you go.
I went to Santorini.
I have not been to Santorini, so I thought it was in Italy. Gosh, that sounds silly,
Well,
doesn't it?
no, so is Santorini, Italy? Well, it might well be. Maybe I thought there was an island. But anyway, that's old man's memory.
No, I think you might be right. I'm pretty sure Santorini is a night. I never went. Anyway, that's where she's going. So she'll be gone for 5 weeks. So it's why you and I at the moment.
But don't you think you can have your roving Instagram now?
Mm-hmm. I think it sounds like a good idea.
Miley takes on, and how is your skin affected, and all the rest of it, because she got such a fabulous smile, that girl.
Yeah, she does.
So and the other side of it,
Creating. Sorry.
well, it's training, but I think that it actually could even be tax deductible for Miley
Okay.
because it's education. I mean, that's just something that you have to find out. But she wouldn't think about that.
No, not at all.
But it's conceivable that it could be part of her education program, and she could say she's doing a skin and body education program, and then she, like some of her accommodation, some of the stuff that she does, she could actually claim as tax deductible, and she could have like cards and receipts and all the rest of it for that. And I mean, I know it sounds like it's just the way my mind thinks as a business guy, that there is an opportunity for her. She's improving herself through travel.
Yes.
And yes, it is a holiday for her, but there are aspects of that holiday that are commercial.
No, I agree.
Well, it's not you that has to agree, it's the tax person. And I mean, what the heck, why not?
Yeah, I'll chat to her today. See how.
Well, you guys should think about your Instagram account. Anyway, scorecard.
All right. So can you see that one now, Kelly?
I can, if you just bring it out a bit more.
I'm just going to pull up so there's 2 weeks that we need to look at.
Oh, we got 6,000.
So this one was 2 weeks ago. Can you see that one okay?
And that's the $6,000 one?
That's correct.
Okay, and so what's the next one?
The next one we were sitting at 6,186.
Okay, so that's another 6,000. So that's really better than what we expect. And what's this week?
I'm not sure at the moment.
But the last 2 weeks have been 6,000.
Yes. So we're kind of
employment 76. So just in real rough terms, the 76 should really relate out to 7,600.
Mm-hmm.
So our average is down. Do you understand my point?
Yes.
So, but it's going outwards. Or is it? So we look at the 76, go back to when we're at 5,000. Okay, at 5, okay, so 548 at 65. See,
Oh, sorry, I don't know what I did.
What?
I've got it. Just let me.
That happens to me all the time. And in Excel, it's not good.
Oh, God. All right, so that one's not right.
You see the relationship I'm trying to make very quickly?
The average spend per client?
Average spend per appointment.
Per appointment.
So I'm now saying, okay, 5482 65,
Mm-hmm.
right? And what's the relationship I wanted to have?
Per client, we're looking around the $100 mark.
Yeah, so I'm looking at a plus or minus, right?
Mm-hmm. So that's a minus.
Well, they're all going to be minuses.
Mm.
The question is, how close did we get to our target?
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so our target is still now, if we look at 6323 against 75. So what does that tell you in terms of a percentage very quickly on our 100? Now we're starting to evaluate the scorecard, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when we look at it like that, 6-3 against 7-5, so that means we're 1,200 short.
Yes.
Okay, at 1,200 short, we can now say our average at 6-3 to 7-5. What's the percentage of between 6-3 and 7-5? That's going to be about 80%, right?
How do you work that one out, Kelly? That
We
percentage is
divide
it?
them by each other. So let's have a look at it.
So 7.5 divided by 6, 323.
632. Yeah, what have you got?
1.18.
Okay, so do it the other way around. 632,386 divided by 7.
0.84.
0.84. So you're 84% of the target.
Mm-hmm.
You understand my point?
Yes.
Okay, now that's a very macro score.
Mm-hmm.
Now we want to go to the micro score. Okay, how do you get the micro score?
You divide the actual amount by the number of clients.
Well, what you do in real terms is you look at what appointments did you sell? What's selling, what's not selling.
Okay.
Okay, and remember a few weeks ago we looked at the $69 offer.
59, yes.
Or 59.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we've got the $59 offer. And when you're getting it, your 59 is now moving towards $84,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so what we want it to do is move it to $99. So is the 59 doing that? And then the real question is 59, the upsell's got to be $41.
Mm-hmm.
You understand my point?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So when we go to the upsells, then we can look at net. You see, from a product point of view, what we want to do is look at what the upsell is against the appointment.
Mm-hmm.
Now that comes down to product selection.
Yes.
That's the micro. The macro view is 75 times 100 is what in real terms is an absolute maximal position, or not a maximal. I don't think that's correct. It's an optimal position. But if you actually went 75 and if it came to 150, that's a maximal. You know why that's maximal?
Because we're going over our target.
Yeah, no. It's not sustainable. It'll burn out unless there's a shift in the market.
Mm-hmm.
Because optimal says we'll do this over and over and over and over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, we know that optimal is between probably $80 and $85.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
It's optimal what the market will do over and over again. The problem with that,
it's not sustainable.
it's not enough for us.
Mm-hmm.
You get my point? So either you got to have more, either you got to take 75 up to 100.
Mm-hmm.
Something else has got to shift. And that's when you're looking at a scorecard. That's how you have to look at the scorecard. You could not ever, and that means never, be satisfied with what the scorecard tells you today.
Mm-hmm.
Why is that?
Because we're always improving.
Yeah, we're always looking to be better.
Mm.
Today we're our best, but tomorrow we're going to be better.
Yes.
Okay, so when you're looking at that, you start to look at that and start to say to yourself, consistently, we know that the spend is, as I've said, between 80 and 85 bucks.
Mm-hmm.
But we want it to be 90 bucks or $100 where we want it to be.
Mm-hmm.
And consistently we're getting around it, from my memory, and we'll do the stats consistently, what our average amount of appointments are. Do you know how to get the average amount of appointments?
Would I add them all up and then
Yeah,
divide?
add them all up and then divide them by the number of weeks and see what the average is. And you can do the averaging in that, and you can go back through the spreadsheets. That's something we do our planning for the 5 years, and now that will allow us to make sensible decisions about what needs to be done.
Mm-hmm.
Make sense?
Yes, perfect sense.
And that's why it's like, to me, these are just snapshots in time, but you want to see enough snapshots in time that you see a pattern.
Mm-hmm.
And you notice I picked the pattern up, say, oh, the relationship between the 6 and the 7 and 70, the 6,076 appointments, the relationship between the appointments that were sold and the upsells.
Yes.
We're always looking at the relationship. And as we look at the relationship, we've been making small comments, because this is not designed to slow you down. This is designed to speed your mind up.
Mm-hmm.
You get my point?
Yes, Kelly.
And each time we look at it, I tend to give you a different view, right?
Yes.
But the same principle.
Yes.
Macro, micro, macro, micro, macro, micro. How does that relate to this? How does that relate to this? So when you're talking about appointments compared to upsells, appointments are the macro, the micro is the upsell.
Mm-hmm.
When you're looking at the total dollar value against the number of appointments, the total dollar value is macro, the appointments are micro.
Micro. Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense to you?
Yes.
So you're always looking at, and you want to always see if I can push the macro out.
Mm-hmm.
Number of appointments, the dollar values, and when you start to look at the relationship, we'll eventually be able to, or you'll eventually be able to look at anything in your mind and say, that relates to that. How are we going here? What's the education that's required for here, and what do we need to do over here? Because it's ordering your thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
Can you see how a lot of the information you have can be used? It's different from accounting information. This is relational information.
Yes.
Transactional information.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Is there anything else that you want to talk about on the scorecard?
No, I'm happy with that, Kelly.
Okay. So is there other things that we need to cover?
No, I think I'm good for now. I'm just having a look. No, I think that covers everything. Scorecard, lease, Molly. No, I'm happy, Kelly.
Okay, Megan, how do you feel? What do you take away?
Kelly, I feel good. I feel like I'm back on track and that we've caught up. I feel a little bit clearer about talking about how to utilize the RBA nomination and kind of a plan to move forward with that and how it affects the salon, and also the 5-year focus. So I feel good about that. I think I'm starting to get more of a clearer idea on the 5-year strategy. Even though I do have a clear idea, I think each time we speak, I kind of, something else clicks and I think of something else. So that's good. So I feel good moving forward, Kelly. Kelly, how do you feel and what do you take away from today?
I take away the concept of macro, micro.
Mm-hmm.
So 5 years, we've got to actually think of macroly where we want to be. And then microly, we've got to process towards it.
Mm-hmm.
Every day in every way, what we do has to meet what we're doing. And so when we start to look at this thing, we start to say, well, we know profitability is an issue. There's no question that we've always known that.
Mm-hmm.
But we don't talk about it that much. We actually work towards making profitability more, more important, because if you focus on profitability, you might lose quality.
Mm-hmm.
And if you focus on quality, you might lose profitability.
Yes.
And what we have to do is we have to see that, a business, because of its framework, is generally in 1 year because of taxation, and all the problems are accrued in 1 year.
Mm-hmm.
What we have to do is we actually have to see a future that sees the outcome that we're creating. And when we're creating this outcome, we genuinely want to have an outcome that sees you as an industry leader. There's no point in today's world, if you can't be a leader where people are following. If you're a follower, you're fucked. There's no other way of putting it. It's like,
I love that. I just had a thought. Whenever I take Byron to daycare, he's not a follower. You see him, you watch him. All the kids are like doing what the teachers are saying, and then Byron just walks off and does whatever something by himself.
yeah, it's because the reality is, if you want to be ahead of the trend, you actually have to look at the trend and say, can I get in front of the trend, or am I always going to be? If you're always following the trend, make no mistake, you'll always be 1 inch behind whatever's going on.
I agree.
We have to acknowledge that we may not quite understand it right now, but we also have to acknowledge we have to manage it.
Mm-hmm.
Just like my story about the rhythmic gymnastics. I mean, it was so simply obvious that the people making the decisions, they didn't even understand they were being influenced. I just thought they were supportive.
Yeah.
And in real terms, that was the intention.
Mm-hmm.
But the result was what we wanted: gold medals.
Yes.
In sport, you don't want silver. You just, you can buy silver. What you want to do is win the gold.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I want. I'm not competitive from the point of view of, I want to win this game. What I want to be is the best at what I do, which at 90 degrees means I'm more of a winner than I'm a loser.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a very competitive attitude. But I have no doubts you have a competitive streak as well.
Just a little one, Kelly.
Yeah, well, let's make it big then. I don't think that's a hard task. All right. Anyway, I'll talk to you later. But think about, and maybe when Molly gets back that we do our 5-year, we can get everything put in place for that.
Sounds good.
I do think it's important that she's there.
Sounds good.
All right. I'll talk to you later.
Okay. Thank you. Have a good day. Bye.